month has forced more than 31,000 Ghanaians to seek refuge in neighboring Cote d'Ivoire. Correspondent in Gaza, Eric Mawena Egbeta.
There's been a directive from the president, amongst many other things, for all the security couples to find a solution to the matter. In fact, somewhere last week, just before the month of August ended, all the top security chiefs, including the Interior Minister, the IGP, the Chief of Defense Staff, and all respective security heads were in the township seeking to get an understanding as to what's happened and proper solutions as to what can be done. We haven't seen a lot of the action outside of a reinforcement of the police presence.
The United Nations report says the paramilitary rapid support forces in Sudan have committed multiple crimes against humanity during the siege of the Al-Shafir in Sudan's western Darfur region. According to the report, both Sudan's army and the RSF have committed atrocities, including war crimes, on a large scale during the civil war, now in its third year. The report finds also that the RSF has further committed crimes against humanity, including large-scale killings, sexual and gender-based violence, looting and the destruction of livelihoods. And the UN says fresh funding will keep food and nutrition support running for more than 300,000 malnutritioned children and mothers in northeast Nigeria. The World Food Programme had warned it might shut down nutrition centers without new support. Millions of people, uprooted by the 15-year insurgency in the region, rely on aid to survive, the BBC's Ensoy reports.
The World Food Programme says the displaced were down to splitting one meal between 2 people each day. With the new funding, the agency will be able to provide at least 2 meals per person per day. The funds include more than $30 million from the US government, provided after the WFP sent out a distress call in July. Many of the displaced were farmers who had fled Boko Haram attacks. The WFP says there are on average 3 attacks on communities across the north of Nigeria every day.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that any Western troops deployed to Ukraine would be targets for Russia to attack. Russia invaded Ukraine 3.5 years ago and has forced fierce resistance from the much smaller neighboring country. Putin's comments come a day after the French president said 26 countries had pledged to provide post-war security guarantees to Ukraine, including an international force.
As for possible troop deployment in Ukraine, this is one of the root causes dragging Ukraine into NATO. If any troops appear there, especially now while fighting is ongoing, we assume that they will be legitimate targets.
A recap of your top story. The UN warns of a deterioration in human rights in Mali due to rising insecurity and a crackdown on civil society 5 years after the military overthrew the democratically elected president. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahape.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, CAF is about to conclude an 8-year groundbreaking deal worth $1 billion, and Raheem Sterling faces a season on the sidelines with Chelsea with his $50 million remaining in wages in his contract, still a sticking thorn in the issue regarding him as well as his team. I'll have details of these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 7 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. A very good Friday afternoon to you, Africa. Here's what we've got in store for you today. We'll be looking at quite a number of activities in the business arena that are taking place, including the B20 that represents the business-led task forces under South Africa's G20 presidency. They handed over recommendations to government. This is ahead of the summit taking place in November. Also, NEDLAC is currently meeting, and they play a central role in shaping policies to improve the socio-economic advancement of the country. NEDLAC, you will know, is the National Economic Development and Labour Council. Also this afternoon, conversations around the automotive industry. We know that they faced a number of challenges, including the tariffs coming out of the United States, as well as an influx of cars coming in from China. But that actually lends itself as an opportunity. The constrained financial resources of South Africans, also a huge challenge for the automotive market. There is a summit that's currently taking place, and we'll be speaking this afternoon with Alan Quinn. He is the Chief Innovation Officer at cars.co.za regarding this automotive summit. That and a whole lot more coming up for you on Africa in Business. And of course, not to forget our weekly business roundup with Victor Khumusano. That comes up just before 5 p.m. A very good afternoon to you.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The B20, representing the business-led task forces under South Africa's G20 presidency, has handed over recommendations to government ahead of the G20 summit taking place in November. The B20 has called for urgency in implementing key recommendations around digital inclusion, capital formation, industrialization, food security and trade, among other priorities. SABC economics reporter Naledi Ngcobo filed this report.
The B20 task force has been commended for the inclusion of small and medium enterprises, women, and the inclusion of culturally diverse participants in the various working groups. B20 Sherpa Cas Kovadia says the implementation of the recommendations will unlock economic opportunities and result in shared prosperity for the continent and the globe.
We took a decision early on in this process that women empowerment and SME development will run through each of our task forces. A resilient private sector preserves jobs, sustains supply chains, and underpins community stability when adversity strikes. These are global imperatives, and with the support of the G20, they can be the foundation of shared growth and lasting prosperity. B20 South Africa will spend the next 2 months focusing on advocating for, promoting, and lobbying for these recommendations to be accepted by the G20 and to be implemented.
International Relations and Cooperation Minister Ronald Lamula says the B20 has effectively identified priorities to accelerate employment and education, digital transformation, as well as industrialization, among others.
The ongoing G20 discussions aim to advance South Africa's overarching priorities, namely ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for just energy transition, harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and sustainable development. The B20 has rightly reminded us that no transition will be possible without affordable finance, no resilient economies without SMEs, and no fair global system without addressing inequality.
Standard Bank CEO and chair of the B20 Finance and Infrastructure Task Force, Sim Shabalala, has emphasized the importance of securing affordable capital to advance Africa's infrastructure ambitions.
The continent needs about $100 billion. It's between $85 and $100 billion a year to build all of that infrastructure. And therefore, where must that money come from? Our recommendations therefore say, firstly, identify that critical infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the ports, the data centers. Secondly, make it easier for financiers globally to invest in those infrastructure projects on the continent. There are a set of rules, for example, that govern macroprudential regulation that need to change. In other words, how risk and banking and insurance is managed by a regulator.
I'm Naledi Ngcobo in Johannesburg.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa. AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org. or follow at Ausisa on social media. Ausisa, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile says although the National Economic Development and Labour Council, known as NEDLAC, has played a central role in shaping policies to improve the socio-economic advancement of South Africa, there is still a huge responsibility to address the persistent challenges of poverty, unemployment and inequality. He delivered his keynote address at NEDLAC's 30th annual summit in Johannesburg in the Gauteng province. Nhlanhla Mahlangu reports.
Convened under the theme Advancing Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability in the Economy and the Labour Market, the summit provided an opportunity for a larger delegation of NEDLAC social partners from organised business, community, government and organised labour as well as other stakeholders to gather and deliberate on socio-economic issues. In his keynote address, the Deputy President Paul Mashatile quoted former President Nelson Mandela's address during NEDLAC's 4th annual summit, where he said job creation was the country's main challenge.
It is concerning that 26 years later, South Africa is still grappling with the same challenges as stated by former President Mandela. The latest quarterly labor force survey for the second quarter of 2025 reveals persistent labor market disparities, with a national unemployment rate of 33.2%, with women bearing a heavier burden at 35.9% compared to 31.0% for men, a 4.9 percentage point difference.
The meeting served as a platform for participants to present achievements and challenges pertaining to the realization of solidarity of workers through advances made in collective bargaining, dispute resolution and building worker unity, including with non-standard employees, and the advancement of gender and race equality in the workplace and society, amongst others. The president of the Federation of Unions of South Africa, Fedusa Masale Godfrey Selematsela, says the meeting is significant.
This meeting is very significant in the sense that it brings all constituency together to the extent that we deal with the policy issues that to a greater extent will also focus on the issue of the economy. So in that respect, we from Labour, we believe it is important because we're able to interact with both business, government and community to the extent that those policy issues that are derived from these engagements actually assist in moving the country forward, especially from an economic point of view. Remember, our view has always been that we want job creation to be made in the country, and it's for that reason that as we engage, we also persuade each other to the extent that we also open up the issue that relates to building our economy such that we're able to create jobs and our people get employment. Currently, we know we've got those challenges, but yes, we're working on that with a view to try and make things happen to the benefit of all South Africans.
Matthew Parks from the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, says the summit provided a platform to reflect on current challenges and advances.
But it's also a chance to reflect on the burning crisis, 43% unemployment, stagnant economic growth, struggling public and municipal services, high levels of poverty, inequality, crime, corruption, and really see what can be done more to address those issues. There's a chance to reflect on the current global tariff turmoil, the need to fix our trade relations and our relations with the US, our second largest trading partner, but also see how do we increase our trading relations with the entire world, how to find new export markets, and really see how can we resolve our economic crisis. So it's a useful platform because here's where government, business and labour come together. What are the issues we can work together, what can we all contribute and compromise on? Because ultimately we all have the same interest. We'll have some differences obviously, but we all want to see businesses sell the products. We all want to see businesses being able to pay salaries And we all want to see workers and companies being able to pay taxes to the state.
Outside the summit venue, a handful of protesters gathered to demand answers to their memorandum of demands submitted to NEDLEC in July, where 40 organizations represented in the protests alleged that the 65 proposed amendments to labor laws allow dismissals of workers on accusations of misdemeanor without formal hearing, increase casualization, and incentivize large-scale retrenchments and outsourcing to downsize businesses. More from Patrick Malaba, spokesperson for the Legal Advice Centers.
Remember, on the 22nd July, we were at NEDLEC handing over our memorandum. So we gave them a space to look into our memorandum and respond accordingly. Because the reason why we handed over our memorandum to them is because we don't agree with the amendment that they are willing to put in law. So we are against that amendment. And the biggest three federations, which is COSATU, NAFTU, and FEDUSA, they did sign this agreement with NEDLEC behind the workers' back. They didn't consult with the workers. So we are here to show our frustration since we haven't get the response from NEDLEC.
Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Ntlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
From markets to innovation. From markets to innovation. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus, Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is exactly 19 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African Time. Now, though Africa is home to a huge proportion of the world's languages, many are missing when it comes to the development of AI. Most AI tools, such as ChatGPT, are trained on English as well as other European and Chinese languages. But as many African languages are mostly spoken rather than written down, there is a lack of text to train AI on how to make it useful for speakers of those languages. Researchers who have been trying to address this issue have recently released what is thought to be the largest known data set of African languages. This report by the BBC News' Pumza Fihlani.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, has become a major part of modern living, shaping how industries work, from travel, health, education, and much more. But, as with any technology, it is only as good as the communities it serves. And in Africa, that's a problem. Africa is home to a third of the world's languages. Despite this, in AI development, those languages are missing. Critics say the issue is a lack of investment and readily available data. You see, many of the well-known AI systems are trained on English, Chinese, or European data sets, what researchers call high-resource languages. But for millions of people across Africa who only speak indigenous languages, this means being left behind. Yet, local experts say the opportunity for AI to help solve everyday challenges in Africa is immense, if designed with local languages in mind. Meet Kilebugile Musime, a 45-year-old mother turned produce farmer. At her Rustenburg farm, she uses a homegrown app, AI Farmer, to help when problems arise. Prompting it in her home language, Setswana, the app understands and responds with suggestions.
As somebody who's still learning, because I think farming is a lifelong learning experience, you hit a lot of challenges. You can see my cabbages, they're like opening, so I can go into AI and ask them, my cabbages are opening, what that is.
But such language savvy tools are extremely rare, and AI needs massive data to work well. A new project called Africa Next Voices may help with this. Its researchers have created the largest known data set of African languages. Across South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria, they asked everyday people to talk about everyday things, from farming, schooling, and healthcare, in 18 different local languages.
You need some basis to start off with, and that's what we hope the African Next Voices is. And then people will build on top of that and then add their own innovations.
The data will be free for developers worldwide. For tech business Lelapa AI, who build digital models in African languages for banking and telecoms firms, this could be a game changer for their customers.
In the very simple sense, we want people to have agency over their lives. From that perspective, we're engaging in assisting people in participating in a digital economy.
For those pushing for inclusive AI, this isn't just about Africa claiming a seat at the digital table. It's about using the technology to serve its people in their own voice.
It is exactly 23 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African Time. Now, a global manufacturer of cut and polished diamonds, Fine Star, has officially opened its new diamond manufacturing facility at the OR Tambo Special Economic Zone in Johannesburg, South Africa. The launch, attended by Mineral and Petroleum Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe, is expected to boost the country's diamond beneficiation efforts and also strengthen the country's position in the global jewelry market. We now have Fine Star Director Gaurav Jian joining us this afternoon to tell us more about what this facility means for the company as well as the industry. A very warm welcome to you. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's quite interesting that a new facility specializing in diamonds is being opened, especially around a time when diamonds globally are facing quite a challenge, especially with the rise of synthetic lab manufactured diamonds. Tell us the reasons behind this expansion.
So let me give you a brief. We're a company who deals only in natural diamonds, and lab grown or synthetics have always been a journey since day one. So I think our concentration, how we market, how do we show ourselves, our people, natural diamonds is a story of emotions. It just does not come where you can grow them. It comes, every single stone has a different characteristics. Every single rough it comes from. And South Africa gives us a great space. We already have an experience in Southern Africa. We have our operations in Botswana, we have our operations in Namibia, and now in Johannesburg. So we are pretty much aware of how Southern African regime works. So our commitment is about long-term, it's about viabilities, it's about sustainability. And we want to be in that space. And this is a family-run business. So our commitment is always going to be long-term. But I think with the support of GIDZ, giving us a chance, an opportunity to come and have an operations here, the support from them, the support from state diamond traders, the support from the Beers Group, the support from all the other tender houses, it allows us to grow and give that essence in Johannesburg. And thank you so much to all these esteemed guests which actually came down today. And we are so lucky that we got blessing from the minister himself. And, we much more. But, as a family business, we are proud of being a part of natural diamond history and its emotions.
It's emotions, you say, and I guess there'll always be a market for emotions. But let's get down to the actual impact that this facility is going to have as far as the number of jobs it's likely to create. Could you take us through that?
Yeah, so currently we're operating with the current staff of 46 employees, out of which 30 employees are from South Africa and 17 are Indian expats. So we're here to upskill our Southern African region employees. What's the great part about our operations here is, I may say 40% of our staff is actually women. So it's actually a great story of women empowerment to be a part of emotions, like I said, about natural diamonds. And women, I think no one can do better than them when it comes to emotions. So I think that's a great thing to be in this space.
And what impact is this likely to have on South Africa's diamond beneficiation efforts?
I think, the flow of investments that we as foreigners, when we come in, I think the support we get, the legislation and the policies that are in place, it allows us to grow in a way that we are doing currently. So we are very happy with the legislation and the policy that has been framed for SEZ. And in that space for us to work, without, the biggest impact was VAT. I think VAT has been something that we all get our financial, commercial challenges. But with SEZ coming into a role, it allows us to, have the exemption of VAT, and then allows us to have more capital used in the right purpose.
Let's take a look now at some of the mechanisms and infrastructure behind your facilities. If you could talk us through the technology as well as the processes that are being used at your facility.
So actually, we are a company who are today indulged with a lot of artificial intelligence, and technology is our backbone of our company. We have, I would say, machines like WaterJet, which comes from Sonova, Switzerland. We have Galaxy machines from Israel. We have so much technology today. I would say 50 to 60% of a diamond can be done by a machine. But there's always the finish that is required to finish the stone, which comes from a human touch. So I think upscaling our people and technology, I would say when you mix the two in the right way, is the right synergy. And this allows us to grow beyond leaps.
And what does this mean for Fine Star? I mean, you did mention earlier on that it was a really huge privilege for you to have Minister Gwede Mantashe attend the launch today. What does that signify for you, not only as a company, but I guess the focus that is being put on the diamond industry in the country?
Actually, I've never heard of the minister going to any diamond factory to open. So, today it just shows the level of interest the Ministry of Mines also have in our industry, which also allows us, if there are any challenges, how it can be addressed, how well are they taken care of. So I think minister's presence speaks it all. The way he was there, the way he expressed, the way he spoke to every single person who was part of our organization, understood our business. I think that's the support we need. And these are the support anyone would need in South Africa. So, we're very happy in that space that minister could take that time out with his entire entourage and come be a part of our function.
You mentioned earlier, Gaurav, that you do have facilities in other parts of the continent, like Botswana, for example. Are there plans to expand further, perhaps into other regions or even other countries on the African continent?
I think, let me give you a little bit of leaps. Actually, we came from Surat, am I right? That's where our hometown is. That's where manufacturing of diamonds happen. From Surat, we came in 2018. We opened our first operation outside India, which was in Gaborone in Botswana. In 2021, when we opened our operation in Windhoek in Namibia. And now in 2023, we came to Johannesburg, South Africa. So I think this is just the beginning. We're looking to see how we can go forward with Angola, because that also plays a very pivotal role in our industry in the natural diamond space. With Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa, I think we are more confident that how to work and operate out of Southern Africa. So I think Angola will be the next one.
All right, Gaurav Jean, thank you so much for your time and all the best with your new diamond facility as a manufacturer of cut and polished diamonds. As you say, it's all about keeping it natural, and it's all about the emotions tied to the natural precious stone. We thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you, SABC, for having me.
It's been a pleasure. That's Gaurav Jain, Fine Star Director. He takes us to exactly 4:30 p.m. Central African Time as we hand over now to the markets desk, where Chanduko Ligege is standing by with your latest market indicators.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Thami. Good afternoon to you and the listeners. $1 is trading at 17 Rand 75 in South Africa. In Botswana, 13 Pula 32. Namibia, 17 Namibian dollars 75. Zambia, 23 Kwacha 75. In Kenya, the dollar is 128 shilling 42. Ethiopia, 142 big 70. Uganda, 3,000 shilling 502. Tanzania, 2,000 shilling 488. $1 in Nigeria is at 1,000 naira 525. Egypt, the dollar is 48. Egyptian pound 52. Tunisia, 2 dinar 90. Algeria, 129 dinar 16. In Morocco, the dollar will cost you 90 dirham 5. Angola, the dollar is at 911 kwanza. The Congolese franc is 2,840 to the US dollar. Commodities, gold is at 3,500. $85. Platinum at $1,386 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil $65.67 a barrel. That is all from me. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanruko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And for the latest from the business of sport, here is Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Thami. A very good afternoon from the sports desk. Now, the president of the Confederation of African Football, Patrice Motsepe, says CAF is about to conclude an 8-year groundbreaking deal with $1 billion to turn around the fortunes of African football. The deal pertains to broadcast rights for the continent's major events.
We had an EXCO meeting now, and a lot of important issues were discussed. We are engaging on this $1 billion partnership that we've been discussing with the private sector. At the heart of that is to ensure, and that $1 billion over 8 years, is to ensure that we increase the financial resources that's available for African football.
At the same time, Motsepe also elaborates on just how the $1 billion will also be used towards football development on the African continent.
A huge amount of that financial funding is going to youth competitions, it's going to investment in academies, it goes into promoting young boys and young girls to participate in competitions in Africa and make sure that those competitions are world-class.
Onto this now. Just 4 years ago, Raheem Sterling was widely regarded as England's best player in their run-up to the Euro final in 2020. But the following season, he was on the bench more for Manchester City, and despite winning his 4th Premier League title, was sold to Chelsea, the first marquee signing of the new owners. Now, this move hasn't worked out at all. Now, at the age of 30, Sterling faces a season in exile at Chelsea, with the $50 million remaining in his wages on his contract a key factor in the stalemate. Now, Sterling signed a 5-year, $500,000 per week contract back in 2022, relocating his young family in the process. Now, the $70 million transfer was a statement of intent by Todd Bowley, who at the time was the acting sporting director, as well as the Clear Lake Capital. A problem, though, for Sterling now is that the people behind such a deal are no longer in charge of the club at this current juncture. So, unless the Blues and the Sterling reach an agreement over a severance package for the $50 million remaining on his contract, the earliest we are likely to see the England international play first-team football again might be January of next year. So the prospect of that scenario seems small. There now appears to be a reluctance from the London club to pay Sterling up. He also appears reluctant to give Chelsea an easy route out of their agreement. In the immediate future, Sterling will remain with Chelsea's bomb squad, which also now includes the likes of Axel Disase as well as David Fofana. Sterling is also waiting for a clearer picture on just how his future as a Chelsea exile looks like after the international break. And finally, London City Lionesses have signed France international Grace Gekoro from Paris Saint-Germain. Now, sources at the French club have told BBC Sport that the transfer fee has now a record of $2.4 million. However, by this afternoon, the Women's Super League side London City said the deal was not a record but would not disclose the fee paid. Now, the women's world record has been broken twice during this European summer. Orlando Pride paid Tigers UANL $1.5 million to sign Mexico winger Lisbeth Ovala just last month, and Olivia Smith also became the first $1 million signing when she joined Arsenal from Liverpool in July. Gehora is London City's 16th permanent signing of the busy European summer, funded by wealthy American owner Michelle Kang. Well, that concludes the sports news this afternoon on Channel Africa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. Have a great sporting weekend. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 4:37 Central African Time. Still coming up for you on Africa in Business this afternoon. We will be talking to Victor Khumusana, author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back, on some of the leading business stories on the African continent. We'll shine a spotlight today on Lesotho, another story focusing on the diamond industry, as well as Angola, with a Chevron signing a preliminary agreement with Angola. And we'll find out exactly what that is all about. But it's really all around the exploration for oil offshore, and also a look at Egypt that has signed 4 oil and gas exploration agreements. Dangote also once again shipping his first petrol cargo export to the United States. These and a whole lot more stories still coming up for you this afternoon on Africa in Business. And also just a quick reminder, in just a short while, a look at the automotive industry, the challenges as well as the opportunities that exist for this sector. You are invited to continue engaging with us on the various social media platforms. On X, Instagram and YouTube, you'll find us at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook, we are at Channel Africa.
Zochitika ndi madaphiri kamlondola wa zochitika pena paliponse.
Mabizinesi osiyana-siyana mdziko la South Africa ayamba kukhoma msonkho wa 30% akamagulitsa katundu wawo ku dziko la United States of America. Ndipo anotele ndi katswiri wa zachuma mu dziko la Malawi, Dr. Betha Chikadza. Boma la South Africa masiku apitawo linanena kuti ngati America akani kutsitsa msonkho, bomalo lipeza misika ina. Mungatifotokozere kuti ndizotheka South Africa kupeza misika yomwe ingabweretsa ndalama pafupifupi $15 billion zomwe imapezeka ku misika ya ku America.
Tinene kuti izizi zitha kuchitika koma sizingachitike mwa pompopompo, chifukwa tikaonetsetsa izi zinthu zokuti inali msika wa dziko la America noni msika wakukhazikika umene dziko la South Africa linali likazolowera kale. Tsono kuti tingonena kuti dziko la South Africa lipezanso msika mwina mwasangasanga kuti lizitumiza katundu wake, mwina sizingachitike pacho kuti tikunena papa $15 billion ndi ndalama zambiri ndithu.
Zochitika ndi madaphiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa.
Africa means business. Tune into Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni for the future of the African economy. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is exactly 4:20. No, it's 4:40. Yes, that's the right time. 4:40 Central African Time. Now, the South African Automotive Business Council, NAMSA's latest statistics of new vehicle sales for the month of August 2025 have shown resilience for the local vehicle industry. Now, this is despite uncertainty as it navigates the US trade tariffs as well as an influx of Chinese vehicle imports. Meanwhile, cars.co.za, in partnership with NADA, the National Automotive Dealers Association, TransUnion, as well as NAMSA, are set to host a DealerCon 2025. Now, this is a summit that seeks to empower automotive dealers amid significant market shifts and also find innovative ways to respond to these challenges. Joining us this afternoon is Alan Kin, Chief Innovation Officer at cars.co.za, South Africa's online motoring platform. A very good afternoon to you, Alan. Good to have you with us. Welcome.
Thanks, Tommy. Thank you for the opportunity. Great to talk.
Well, look, it's been a month since the 30% US tariffs kicked in on imports from South Africa. Has the sector already started to feel the impact of these tariffs?
Yes, in a word. You've seen recent announcements, especially from Ford, of job cuts. What you must remember about cars is that there's over 100,000 parts in a car, and those parts move around the globe. They're manufactured in one country, move to another. We do have a significant manufacturing sector in this country. In fact, it makes up 5% of our GDP, which is a huge success story, but we're reliant on that global supply chain. What the American president has done inadvertently is put a lot of doubt into that supply chain. We just don't know what's going to happen in the future, and that's resulting in people just being conservative about decision making, and that will have implications for families that work in the sector, unfortunately.
Let's take a look at Chinese brands and their performance in the South African market. We have seen an increase in their market share. In 2019, they were sitting at 2%. In 2024, they were at 9%. And this growth has also been blamed for local and domestic job losses. What does this shift mean for traditional dealers, and how are they positioning themselves to remain competitive?
Well, look at it from a consumer's point of view. What the China has done, and look, it's been remarkable how well those brands have done, because they've brought in a very good price point for a very good product, a tech-heavy product, but the price point has been revolutionary. And you'll see that some of the OEMs, the traditional OEMs, especially Japanese brands, Suzuki, Toyota, that has forced them to up their game, but again to the consumer's benefit. So from a South African consumer point of view, I regard the overall impact as positive. From a dealer point of view, I think because of that positive consumer sentiment, we're seeing more positive activity and interest and activity in the market, and that overall for the industry is good. Now, it does have positive implications for some people, negative implications for others. But one thing I would say, it's not going to go away. We estimate about 15 different brands are going to launch this year in the South African market, and that's completely unprecedented. And in that kind of period of flux, that gives opportunities for some, and it will also obviously negatives for others. So I think the challenge for dealership is, and dealerships are entrepreneurs by nature, it's a challenge to embrace that and look for those opportunities, look for those green shoots to take advantage of them, because overall the sentiment is positive.
Is there a responsibility, do you believe, for the South African government, Ministry of Trade, for example, to ring-fence this manufacturing, sector as far as the automotive industry is concerned, in order to stimulate more domestic production?
I don't think ring-fence is the right word, but the government active participation through bodies like NAMSA and NADA has been ongoing, and it is very positive for the industry. In fact, it needs to support the industry, because your broader macroeconomic framework and your trade deals and so on, that's what supports and makes this industry a reality. Also, the tax regime, I think it's almost half of what we pay for a new car is actually the tax in various ways, shape and form. That tax regime also dictates. Electric cars in this country, for example, are more expensive than petrol cars, yet in other countries they're less expensive. And that's a tax issue which government can influence. So certainly positive engagement for government, because it is 5% of GDP, is necessary for growth of the industry.
So when we look at the Automotive Business Council report, for the month of August, there was an increase in new vehicle sales. Which brands are the ones that have attributed or contributed to these new vehicles being bought? And are they locally produced brands or imports?
It's a bit of both. Look, the Chinese have taken up, in our estimates, about 13% market share, which is enormously positive. The other brands which are doing well and very resilient, Suzuki and Toyota doing well. Ford is holding its own. The German brands really have struggled, and a lot of that is just due to exchange rate issues. What the Japanese brands have done well is they've moved manufacturing into low-cost geographies, which includes South Africa, which has been very positive for our economy, and that's why they're able to stay price competitive against the Chinese. The Germans have not been as quick to do that, because I think their focus is on other markets, and that's what's made them struggle from a price point of view. And unfortunately, we are a market which is enormously price sensitive.
On the 17th of September, you are going to be hosting DealerCon 2025. What are the areas that you'll be focusing on for this conference? As we mentioned earlier on, it has been a really challenging time as far as the implementation of the tariffs and also just the price competitiveness of the summit. If you could maybe highlight for us just some of the areas that you'll be focusing on, as well as the importance of a summit of this nature.
Well, the timing we believe was important because there is green shoots. We are as an industry heavily reliant on finance and for customers to be able to buy, and the interest rates are falling, which is green shoots, and that's very positive for everyone. And also with the emergence of these new OEMs and the products that they're bringing, there's huge consumer interest. So we wanted to bring dealers together into a common place where just take you out of your day-to-day working environment, build you into an area, show you new technologies, have the best practice and leadership in the industry talking on stage, because that will help generate new thinking and new ideas, which for those people who are willing to adapt, willing to move forward, bright and innovative, that should be an environment where you can pick up those ideas and take them into your dealership the next day and use them to advantage of your customers, to your employees and all the stakeholders in your business.
Well, wishing you all the best for that summit that's coming up in just a couple of weeks' time. We thank you so much for your time and your insight into the automotive industry, Alan.
It was a pleasure to talk. Thank you for your time.
It really was. Thank you. That's Alan Kin. He's Chief Innovation Officer at cars.co.za. He takes us to exactly 4:48 Central African time. When we return in just a moment, a conversation with Victor Khumswana on some of the leading stories on the African continent. We'll be looking at Angola, Lesotho, as well as Egypt and the United States.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 4:49 Central African time as we host once again this Friday afternoon Victor Khumswana. He's author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back. He's also the Executive Director for Marketing and Communication at the University of Limpopo. Good to have you with us once again, Victor, and happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday, Thami. Good to talk to you again.
Just a bit earlier on this afternoon, Victor, we spoke to a Fine Star director, Fine Star, the global manufacturer of cut and polished diamonds, and they've just recently opened up a new diamond manufacturing facility at the OR Tambo International, or rather Special Economic Zone. And I find that quite interesting because they deal in natural diamonds, and clearly it's working out for them. But if we look at Lesotho, I mean, they've been the biggest diamond mining, or their biggest diamond mine is cutting off a workforce. And this really due to the price slumps and the pressure that the natural diamond industry has been facing globally. Talk to us about just the contrast of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not even a contrast, Thami. If you have a large portfolio of businesses, you can afford to open a business like that because there are still people who are collecting diamonds and organic diamonds or natural diamonds. And the De Beers people will tell you straight that if you're buying lab-made diamonds, you're going to lose because they don't appreciate in value as natural diamonds do. Time will tell. But since 2022, the price of diamonds has come down by 35%, and in the 6 months to June, the company that owns Seletseng Mine, which is the largest mine in Botswana, and that's Gem Diamonds, reported a loss of $11.7 million after registering a $2.1 million profit in the same period last year. So this is 10% of the GDP of Lesotho, and it's as important as textiles and clothing, and it's losing value because of that. So with the 26% lower price, I think just over 1,000 carats $1,000 per carat. This is obviously forcing them to close the company and lay off 240 workers.
It's going to have a huge impact there for Lesotho. Let's take a look now at Chevron. They are looking at exploring for oil offshore in Angola, and that deal being penned.
Yeah, the preliminary agreement with ANPG, but it's subject to regulatory approval. But in the Lower Congo Basin, they are going to be getting the blocks, a few blocks that they're getting. It's part of a bigger story in Angola since the arrival of President João Lourenço, that they have been trying to clean up and get more structure into the diamond, into the gold, the oil industry. Although they're also doing well in diamonds, but it's just an American company that when you hear Donald Trump talk about Africa, you will think he doesn't take it seriously. He doesn't think highly of it. But this is a top 2 oil company in the U.S., Chevron, alongside with the other one. So it's not a minor investment. And it's not the only place where they're investing on the African continent. So it is just an indication that you can talk politics, but investors and businessmen and women are knowing that exactly where the business is on this continent, and that's where they're investing.
And that's where the focus is. For Egypt as well, Egypt signing 4 oil and gas exploration agreements with various international companies. So definitely oil and gas exploration continues to be a major activity.
Exactly. I mean, Shell is in the biggest of the deal. It's a huge $340 million, but the biggest deal is $120 million by Shell. BP is there as well, British Petroleum. There's a Russian company they are all in the mix. The 10 new blocks, wells that are going to be dug in the offshore Mediterranean and Nile Delta region. So yes, tourism in Egypt, sea passage for cargo moving from the Indian Ocean, Pacific to the Atlantic, and you also have oil exploration. Is the diversification of the economy that's going to help, because you can't just depend on one. If you see what Botswana is doing, depending too much on diamonds is not safe. So they are diversifying, the Egyptians, and they are doing very well, because this is just a sign that the economy is going to grow and become even bigger on the African pecking order.
And taking a look at Dangote, once again expanding, and this time into the United States once again.
This is interesting because he has been trying. Look, he's got a 650,000 barrel per day refinery. That's the capacity. And he is now exporting the first consignment of 300,000 barrels of refined petroleum to the U.S. The East Coast is going to land there. And this is a first for Dangote, but it's not the first international export. He has sold to Indonesia, he has sold to the Middle East, he has sold to South Africa. So he is showing that although the capacity of the refinery can be absorbed entirely by the Nigerian market, he is not desperate. He can find markets elsewhere. And considering the hard time that he's been getting with the bureaucracy in Nigeria, I think it's good for him that his refinery can have alternatives and not have the concentration risk of selling only or depending only on one market.
And how do Trump's tariffs bode on this particular export?
Because of the way oil and petroleum products are sold, I'm sure it will be an issue. But remember, the alternative is to go and buy Russian oil. So I'm sure they will negotiate. That's why I'm saying, there's a joke in the White House. They say that advisors of Donald Trump don't do everything he tells them the first time, because he might just not remember what he told you. So this tariff story is not what it looks like on the surface. It's all about, he's not going to let those SUVs in America run out of petrol because he wants to impose tariffs. So I'm sure that he will be selective in how he imposes them. And in the end, there's Dangote. He's already closed the deal. I don't think you will want to be bullying anybody like Dangote, especially because he's got other international markets that he can sell. I'm sure he got a very good deal here that the tariffs won't matter.
And what message do you think this actually sends to the exporters of the world? Is it be bullish, take your shot, shoot your shot, and who knows, you might just make it through.
The message is TACO. TACO. Trump always chickens out. He can talk tough. He can do whatever. He's got a market that's guzzling. The American cars are huge, Thami. You know that. They are guzzlers of petrol. He doesn't have enough to meet his demand. He's going to have to buy. So, but what he needs, what the American market needs, he's going to cut a deal. He's a businessman. He's not stupid. So he talks tough and all rambunctious on the surface, but behind the scenes, I'm sure he can cut a deal. He's got very smart people who can cut a deal where it matters the most. So I think it's just the dynamics and the industry dynamics of what you're selling, and then do what you can to stay in business. He's not going to be in power forever. It's 2 more years to go. He will be out, and I'm sure people can restore that if they just play the long game.
Play the long game, he says. Victor Khumsana, also always a pleasure. Thank you so much for today's top business stories related to and coming from the African continent. Thank you so much. You have yourself a splendid weekend ahead.
You too, Thami. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Victor Khumsana, author of Africa is Open for Business. And as you can see here, petrol, oil, as well as other refined energy products are exempt from those, Trump tariffs. So the likes of Dangote can, quite comfortably export to the country, as we're seeing there. Not the first one for Dangote. He has exported to the Middle East, Indonesia, as well as other countries, as Victor Khumsana has so highlighted. We know that there are 10% global tariffs as well that Trump has instituted, as well as the 30%, depending on which country you're at. Well, that's how we round up this week's and today's edition of Africa in Business. Thank you to our fabulous team. We have Matapelo Mahape on the news desk, economics desk, Chanduko Ligege, from the sporting desk, Musibudi Makura, to our producer, Mabu Bolok, our technical producer, Ndando Lutuli, and on social media, Talent Butelezi. I'm Thami Ngubeni. This has been your edition of Africa in Business on Channel Africa. It's gone 1 minute to 5 p.m. as we hand the reins over now to the French desk with Vue d'Afrique.